It's playoff hockey time in Arizona and across the West as the Calder Cup Playoffs begins. And the Pacific Division is a huge place to look for that right here on Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, still for now. I am your host, Robyn Leano, and we want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, Spotify, Google, ad-free on Amazon Music, if you're into that. We're back, and we're talking playoff hockey in Arizona. It doesn't make sense. No, it does, because the Tucson Roadrunners are starting their campaign for the Calder Cup Playoffs today. Joining me on today's episode is Jason Hernandez of Locked On Ducks. He's also the PAA announcer for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. So, Jason, welcome to the show today, and let's get ready for some Calder Cup playoffs.
First off, I love your new intro that you finally got just as the team is moving.
I know, right?
What timing! What perfect timing to get that new video.
I know. I made that joke last week. It was the most. It is pretty funny, but new one coming soon once we know more.
Another new one. Boy, they must love that.
I know.
And by they, anyway. So we do have playoff hockey to talk about. I mean, yes, I'm the host of Locked On Ducks, but all my teams are out from the NHL, AHL, and ECHL, so they're all out. Yeah. Which is why I can talk about the rest of the teams. Because as you know, I watch a lot of AHL hockey. I watched a lot of it a few feet away. So I think I know a thing or two about these matchups coming up.
Oh, the Calder Cup playoffs is always my favorite time, because this is around the time in which a lot of the quote black aces they get sent back down. They're like, yeah, they were some time they get sent back down. So you got like these quadruple A style players playing in the Calder Cup. You got these players who got eliminated, who finished their run in the NCAA Frozen Four who signed their contracts. You got the people from the junior playoffs who got eliminated who have their contracts signed. All of them converging into the American Hockey League, the Calder Cup playoffs, and it makes it for one hell of a wild ride.
With one exception, some guy named Cutter Gauthier who decided to play one game for the Ducks instead of 4 with the goals, but whatever.
Hey, it happens. Saying. I mean, let's take a look at this. Not all young guys, young stars get sent down to the Calder Cup playoffs. For Arizona's sense, Logan Cooley is, he's like, no, I'm not, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to go down to the Calder Cup playoffs.
I mentioned this on Locked On Kraken, I think last week, and I mentioned that it's important to have these kind of games. Like, these are professional playoff games. These are pressure cooker moments for a lot of these young guys. And having this kind of run, it's important to their development. And you could go down the laundry list of players that have played in the Calder Cup playoffs and have gone on to have pretty solid careers in the National Hockey League. If we go back to last season for the Firebirds, Ty Cartier and Joey Daccord. I mean, he's an Arizona legend.
Yeah, Arizona legend. Joey Daccord.
I mean, Mullet Arena is the house that Joey Daccord built.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be 100%. Real here. And then Acrisure Arena, I mean, Joey Daccord turned that place to a madhouse. And then he gets the Joey chance at the Winter Classic. So that experience is important.
You're getting that in this season. We got a little bit of glimpse of it last season, but even it's a bigger sense this season. I'm going to mention some of the other young players for the Tucson Roadrunners in a little bit, but I want to focus a little bit on Josh Doan, because earlier this year he became the first Arizona-born, raised, and trained player to play for to play for Arizona State. To play for Arizona State, get drafted by the Arizona Coyotes, play for the Tucson Roadrunners, and then also play at a professional game for the Coyotes. So he hit the perfect gauntlet. Like truly Arizona born, raised, trained, everything. So he is going to be
27 years.
Oh yeah.
That means 26 years from now, there will be someone that's born, bred, and raised in the Coachella Valley that'll play for the Firebirds. By that timeline. But yeah, talking about Josh Doan, if we just can for a split second, I got to give him credit for having the maturity to go through everything that has gone on with the Coyotes to get that first goal in front of his dad, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And to do it with such poise speaks a lot about the player, but also the character. So, to see Josh Doan just kind of go from, Wunderkinds to actual NHL player. I mean, he's not going to be in the AHL next season. He's too good for the American Hockey League. He's going to be in the National next season. So this is kind of the last stand for it. How do I want to put this without being mean? This kind of feels like a last stand for Arizona hockey in a sense. Does it make sense why I'm saying that?
Yes, I know what you're getting at, because like we are getting the essence of Arizona hockey. Like, the Doan family, who means so much to this state, that once this Calder Cup Playoffs is done, next season he's not going to play for the Roadrunners or the AHL, the AHL affiliate. He's going to be playing for the NHL team in Utah. Like, that's gonna happen, and that I feel like a lot of Coyotes fans feel, they're feeling like they're taking that personally. They're like, oh hell no, we're gonna cheer this kid on until he no longer wears the anything Arizona on his chest.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sad day once that happens.
It will.
It could be in a month.
Yeah, we'll see how long this Roadrunners run lasts. They look like a really good team this year, and they're only getting stronger. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get to the Roadrunners as well as some of the other teams, but particularly the Roadrunners and their upcoming matchup against the Calgary Wranglers in the first round of the Calder Cup Playoffs. But first, we're going to take a quick word from our sponsors on today's show. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time for the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. On an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. Heck, you can even take a look at lines for the American Hockey League if you're really into that. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Please gamble responsibly, folks.
Let's continue this episode of Locked On Coyotes. I'm gonna milk that as much as I can, Jason. As we talk about the upcoming Calder Cup Playoffs tonight, Arizona Coyotes AHL affiliate Tucson Roadrunners up against the Calgary Flames AHL affiliate Calgary Wranglers. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I want to highlight first and foremost certain number of players who have been sent back down to the Tucson Roadrunners after ending their season with the or at least having some part of the of gameplay with the Arizona Coyotes. I already mentioned Josh Jones' name. Dylan Guenther got sent back down. Vladislav Koyochanik got sent back down. Maximilian Zuber is in there. You have Sam Lipkin on his way over from the NCAA. Connor Geeky on his way over from the WHL playoffs. You are getting a Tucson Roadrunners team who are very slowly over time, as you're realizing the last 2 weeks just became stacked on stacked on stacked.
But there is a problem with that. And there's always a problem with when that happens. There are certain guys that are going to be left out, and several teams have fallen into this can be a problem. And certain teams run into the question of what happens with the team chemistry. Do you want to have too many of those guys come back in right away? That's always the biggest issue. We saw this with Ontario a couple years ago. We've seen this, this is every year in the American Hockey League. That's one of the biggest questions.
Yep, it is one of the biggest questions, and I think you're right. I think it goes to looking at the aspect. I think that's why the Roadrunners and the Coyotes they drew it out as long as they could before they called up certain players. They called up Guenther first, and he stayed up the longest. They called up Doan and all the others later on. They gave them, a couple of games, but they sent them back down because they wanted to make sure they still gel with all the players in Tucson.
Yeah.
Guenther hasn't seen a Tucson game since January or even earlier than that. So it's been a while, right?
Yeah. That being said, Calgary loaded up as well, which I do need to talk about for a second because I do follow the Wranglers. I follow all the Pacific Division closely because, know your enemies. Calgary just got back Adam Klapka. They got Dustin Wolf back, which by itself is a big deal. They got Solovyov back. They got Sam Honzik back. And most importantly, they got Matt Coronado back from the Calgary Flames, who has given the Roadrunners trouble in the past. So this is going to be kind of a tough series, I think.
Oh, it certainly will be a tough series. To me, and this is really just thinking impact-wise level is mentioning earlier about Guenther's return, depending on how long it's been, how much of an impact it's going to make. I mean, he was the AHL's one of the AHL's leading scorers for a while, before he got called up. And what I really want to see, I mentioned two other names who are going to be injected into the lineup. One more recently, and one's going to be completely new. Sam Lipkin, he got sent a couple weeks ago from the NCAA, and then Connor Geeky from the WHL playoffs. Geeky is going to be injected into a whole different, something new. Has he seen these players before? Yeah, but not since prospect camp.
Yeah,
and we're talking last summer. A whole different vibe. My hope is that he can inject into the system right away, because I've seen what Geeky can do, and he has the promise to essentially help bring this core together and make it even better.
I've kind of got a hot take on this. The Tucson Roadrunners have been a solid team all year long without the services of some of those players that you just mentioned. I think their top two lines are fine. I mean, when you add Josh Doan, that's where I think the Roadrunners are perfectly fine. So do they need some of these prospects? If I'm going to be really completely honest, I don't know, because I think some of those guys are going to wind up being healthy scratches for a lot of this run, depending how far they go.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
You're 100%
it's a fine
right.
line.
Because if you look down the entire roster, you think to yourself, okay, which what players do you essentially cut and make healthy scratches, because that's a really hard line to do. I mean, you for sure that all the top players like Doan, Ratu, Gunther, all those are safe. But when it gets down deeper to all the, more dead players, like I'm trying to look at here, like McGregor
Kellerman.
or Kellerman, those players, what do you do?
I would not bench a guy like Milos Kellerman. He's done well against Calgary. Like, if I see him left off of a roster as a healthy scratch, I'll be scratching my head big time.
Yeah. I will also add another
I'll go even
player up
further.
here.
So another player that has playoff experience, Austin Pagansky, former Firebird. He provides depth, scoring very good on the third and fourth line. That's where the Roadrunners have to be very, very careful. You don't want to have too many of those guys off. It is the playoffs. It is Calgary. You do need some of those bodies that are going to be able to withstand that.
Absolutely. I want to go and talk a little bit about goaltending for a second, because I think that's something that could really decide this matchup. Matt Villalta has been great, at least on the Roadrunner side. But the last couple games, she's shown a little bit of concern in his game.
He looked awful against the Firebirds. He didn't even dress the last time that Tucson. Actually, he didn't even make the trip, by the way, just so you know. He wasn't on the bus. He wasn't anywhere near the team. He didn't make the trip on Tucson's recent visit to Coachella Valley. And maybe the last few weeks or so, maybe the last month, Matt Villalta has been, to me, the biggest wild card, because there are games where he's spectacular, but there's been more games recently than earlier in the season where he hasn't looked, not that he's not 100%, but he hasn't looked like that dominant goalie that we saw 2-3 months ago. He's not. And this goes back, and if I'm going to go way back, this is the exact same thing that happened with Matt Villalta when he was with the Ontario Reign. The exact same thing, where Villalta had a great start early in the season, started to fade a little bit, and by the time the playoffs rolled around, he wound up just getting shelled against the Colorado Eagles. So I think just me watching Matt Villalta for a few years now, it's kind of like a weird pattern.
It's
weird happening pattern again.
And you can only hope that, with the team that he has in front of him, and and all the talent that's being injected back into the roster, that he returns back to what made him look so good at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, I mean, those defensemen have got to have strong games. I mean, Soderstrom has got to be the dominant player that he is. Crotty's got to be just fantastic. So if the defense in front of him can hold Calgary to maybe 20 to 25 shots, I think they'll be perfectly fine. I mean, you cannot have the kind of game they had just last month, where it was shot upon shot upon shot, and Tucson was lucky to get that win just last month. And it wasn't even Villalta, it was Dylan Wells.
Something I'm trying to find out if they're going to be in there, because on the if this player, speaking of defense, can be back on the Tucson Roadrunners website, he's listed as inactive. But is Michael Kesselring eligible?
I don't believe so anymore now. So I don't think he'd be available.
Because that would have been another player that would have been like a huge addition if he was. But
yeah, I think he's one of those that was not paper transactioned. So I don't think see Kesselring.
Which is a little bit unfortunate, but at the same time, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. If you have a team that's that stacked, then you have so much especially Matt Kesselring only played looking right now 6 games with the Roadrunners.
Not enough.
It wouldn't have I don't think he would have helped. He could have, but chemistry wise, it potentially could have done more harm.
Right. Can we get to the lines for this series really fast? Because I think we got to get to our just big takes on this series.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and go through all those takes on this series, and then get some picks for the remainder of the American Hockey League Calder Cup Playoffs right after a quick word from our sponsors.
It's going to be a long third segment, folks.
And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. The NHL season is now over. We're in playoff mode, and with how everything is, if you want to be if you're huge on daily fantasy hockey, we are going to remind you that you can win big playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You can play alongside friends in a group and team chat functionality, connect with other fans as well, make entries in under a minute. All you got to do is pick whether or not studs like Connor McDavid or Alex Ovechkin or anyone else in the current round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. Win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details and locational availability. And today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting a fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Find top talent with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Indeed, matching as soon as you sponsor a post gets you a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Boom. It's hiring at warp speed. Indeed knows when you're hiring, you're growing your own business, so you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available to everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Let's get to my favorite segment. I'm so glad we're getting to a little bit of lines here. We're talking about.
Let's warn the fans really fast. This might be a long segment.
Oh yeah, it might be a long segment because we're talking not just predictions for all of this and lines, but we're talking.
We've got two other series to predict as well.
Oh yeah, but I want to start with our series here that we're talking here on Locked On Coyotes, the Roadrunners versus the Wranglers. I was able to do some digging and find we've got some lines from our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. FanDuel Sportsbook even does American Hockey League.
Gamble
games.
Responsibly, folks.
100%. Be sure to gamble responsibly.
This isn't the ad break. This is a little more even than I thought. Yes. I legit thought it would be like a minus 150. I think the reason it's a minus 130 right now is because of the Dustin Wolf effect.
Yes, you're right. And actually, interesting enough, I was looking at the odds as late as last night, and this is updated as of the time of this recording on Tuesday night. So Monday night, it was a little bit more in the Roadrunners' favor. It was closer to minus 140. It was like minus 138, and the Wranglers were plus 110 or something like that.
It's the Dustin Wolf effect. Look, he's the 2-time goalie of the year. He was the MVP of the American Hockey League last season. That being said, he's not the same goalie that he was last year. So I'm not so sure about Dustin Wolf. Of course, me saying that, he took the Firebirds to the distance last year in the Pacific Division Finals. It took 3 overtimes in an overtime game. That being said, I think this series will also go the distance. Dustin Wolf is going to single-handedly get the Wranglers at least one win. At least one win. He is too good to let this team get swept. And I mentioned before that Calgary still has too much talent. But so does Tucson. The biggest key for the Tucson Roadrunners is going to be their offense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Matt Villalta's probably going to allow a few goals. Let's be honest here. Let's be like completely honest, Tucson fans. He's going to give them some goals. But it's going to be about the offensive firepower from the Roadrunners. Can they get a few past Dustin Wolf?
That is a huge question. And you can only hope so if you're a Roadrunners fan or / Coyotes fan, mainly because one thing and one thing only. Actually, not really. I can't say one thing. It's multiple things, but based off of one overarching topic, it's that these players are when they were drafted by the Coyotes, when they're drafted by Bill Armstrong, they were known to be, quote, true goal scorers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were focused. They are meant to put the puck in the back of the net, and that is what they were known for when they got drafted.
Yep.
And you can only hope that they live up to their name.
That being said, I do predict that the Roadrunners are going to win in 3. It's going to take all 3. It's not going to be a 2-game sweep by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin Wolf is going to get these Wranglers at least a victory. And that game 3, like I legit think it's going to go 3. And that game 3 is going to be stressful for the Roadrunners fans. But that's just what I think. But I think Tucson pulls away.
Yeah. Now remember, Roadrunners fans, the last time the Tucson Roadrunners had a home ice advantage in the Calder Cup Playoffs, we can go back to 2018. So we're talking 6 years ago in the first round when the Tucson Roadrunners swept the San Jose Barracuda. And here's an interesting thing. The format is a little bit the same, but there's also some significant changes to how it works. It's still a best of 3 for the first round.
Let's get to that later. Let's save that for the end.
But I know. But I do have to say this, that no matter what, I think that what will definitely help Tucson in this case, even though the Wranglers technically get 1 game as the home team, it's still all the games are still being played at Tucson Arena.
Which is why I think it's going to come down to game 3. Easily. So there's my prediction. Roadrunners in 3.
Roadrunners in 3. That certainly will be a really good series. And I will be down at the very least for these first 2 games. So starting tonight, for everyone that is listening.
Plan for 3, Robyn.
If you want... I mean, I actually, as of right now, I'm scheduled to work my other job on Sunday, so who knows if I'll be able to make it to that one. But I have Wednesday and Friday wide open to be able to watch, to be able to make it to those games. And you best know I will be making it to those games. If you want to say hi, I'm more than welcome to saying hello to you, all you Roadrunners fans out there. Making my triumphant return to Tucson. I feel like it's been such a long time.
Sonoran dogs, baby.
Bacon wrap burritos. Go for the full tour again.
Oh my God! Should we mention this to the Roadrunners fans that might not know what that's about?
I think Tucson. I think if the Roadrunners fans that live in Tucson that are listening to this, you guys know what I'm talking about. But
I mean, the everydayers.
The everydayers also, like the everydayers know that. But if you don't, and you have, and you're kind of newer to the program here, in Tucson, there's a small little taco shop that is known for serving these bacon wrapped Sonoran style burritos that are like the size of a forearm. Yep. And they are absolutely delicious. I had the pleasure of introducing Jason and as well as former Locked On Kings host Sarah Avampado to those bacon wrap burritos when they made their trip to Tucson a couple of years ago.
And what did idiot me do, Robyn?
Tried to eat the whole thing in one sitting.
I got the biggest size possible. That was idiot thing number 1. Idiot thing number 2 was trying to eat the whole thing in one sitting, and then we recorded right after that.
We were doing a.
No, we did.
we did a locker room talk with some of the fans, and you were eating it as we it's like as we were talking to fans, which was a great time.
Oh man, and some colleagues will never let me forget it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Laura Saba, if you're watching this.
But
anyway,
let's take a look at the bracket really quick, so we can take a look at what the other series that we have in the first round. In Pacific Division alone, we got some really good matchups. Ontario against Bakersfield, Colorado against Abbotsford. Those are going to be some interesting ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which one do you want to talk about first of the other two series?
Let's tackle Ontario versus Bakersfield, mainly because you got a Bakersfield jersey behind you.
Okay, so not to piss off the local fans in Ontario, I do have an Ontario jersey as well, but I never get to bust this thing out. So I just busted it out just for that. No other reason. Oh, you want my actual take on that series too, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay. The Ontario Reign shot themselves in the foot on the very last game of the regular season. It came down to Ontario versus Colorado. All Ontario had to do was win in Colorado. They would have clinched the number 2 seed, and it would have been Ontario facing Calgary. And it would have been all 3 games in Ontario. However, they lost that game to Colorado, who we'll talk about in a second. They only have a 1-1-1 series now. Because Bakersfield is within the mileage range, Game 1 is in Ontario. Game 2 was in Bakersfield on Saturday. They got to wait till Saturday. And then Sunday back in Ontario if necessary, which may very well be necessary because these two teams have been even all season long. I look at some of the other matchups that these two teams have had, and when Ontario has won the games, they've been close. They've been very close. They've all been 1-goal victories. And then when Bakersfield wins, they're blowouts. They're complete and utter blowouts. And I think back to the game in Ontario where Ontario just got run out of the building 6-2. That was a bloodbath of a game. And I can't help but have that game still in my mind when I think about recent meetings between the two. But Ontario, I think their biggest concern is going to be on the goaltending side, just like their counterparts in the National Hockey League. You know, the Kings have their goalie issues. So do the Ontario Reign. When you have to rely on Aaron Dell as your backup, yes, that Aaron Dell. I saw the look on your face. Aaron Dell, former San Jose legend. Can I say that? Can I say that, Robyn? I mean, I know where you're from.
Sure, I guess.
We're going to bring this up, okay? Aaron Dell is a San Jose legend. That was your goalie when you were still going up there once in a while, Robyn. Right?
It was.
So
yeah.
you know all about the greatness that can be Aaron Dell and the how can I put this nicely? The complete meltdown getting pulled Aaron Dell. You've seen both.
Oh yeah. And it's it's like a switch. It just happens like that.
Yeah. Or Aaron Dell can get a shutout. You never know. The Reign might go with Eric Portillo, but Eric Portillo, I think, is still kind of a question mark. He is a younger rookie. This is his first season in the American Hockey League. So I don't know if the Reign are going to go with Eric Portillo to be in the playoffs or they're going to go with Aaron Dell. I think that's going to be the big question mark. I guess we'll find out this time tomorrow, or I guess later today, Wednesday night, which, by the way, I will be at that game. So if there happens to be any fans that are in Ontario and want to say hi to me, sure, I'll be the loudmouth there too. So you'll be in Tucson, I'll be in Ontario.
And for the Tucson fans who are who want to follow it, you could follow Jason at Stimpy JD, and I'm pretty sure he'll give his thoughts on the game as it goes.
I'll have plenty of thoughts on that game. As far as the Bakersfield side, their captain's retiring at the end of this season. I don't think he wants to go away without a fight. Brad Malone has been the steadfast captain for the last number of years and has done a fine job as their captain. Bakersfield, for what it's worth, they've had fairly deep runs in the recent past. So I see no reason to think that Bakersfield is going to go down easily, because they're not. They've got a slew of great young players. The only issue for both of these teams, they've both got guys up in the National Hockey League right now, ironically played each other in the NHL playoffs.
I think that's the most iconic thing ever, where you have the Condors against the Reign and the Oilers against the Kings at the same time.
And you're probably asking, Robyn, how often do you think that happens?
It's very rare.
No, it's not. It happened last season.
Did it?
How do I know this?
Oh,
because the
right.
Firebirds played the Firebirds last season. Remember, Seattle was actually a playoff team for 1 year.
Oh yeah, that is right.
Yeah, and remember, Colorado was there too, and they kind of played each other, and then the Firebirds and Eagles played each other in that epic series, which some fans want to.
I almost probably got about that series.
Yeah. Fans forget, Seattle was a playoff team last year, folks. Come on. Anyway, it does happen somewhat more than you think. Not just in our wacky division, but in other divisions as well. It does happen. Maybe once every couple of years. Back-to-back years, it's rare.
I mean, in the other divisions, there's less teams to worry about.
Well, that's debate. Okay. I'm going to be nice here. I'm going to be very nice. Can you imagine if Providence has to play Hartford somehow, and you have the Bruins and Rangers both in the playoffs? Or, I don't know. What if, I'm not saying it's going to happen, what if the Nashville Predators somehow beat Vancouver? And as far as Winnipeg, and can you imagine whoever wins that series has to play Milwaukee? What if Nashville's still around? Just saying.
That would be an interesting one. That would be surely an interesting one.
Yeah, that being said, there's going to be some good series all across the American League. Texas, I think, is going to easily handle the Manitoba Moose. So it'll be Milwaukee, Texas. Grand Rapids, Rockford will be a fun one to watch. Hershey is the team to watch for everyone. They won the Calder Cup last season in Coachella at Acrisure Arena.
In Game 7.
In Game 7, in overtime. We'll just get past that. Anyway, they're the team to watch. I'll admit it. And of course, you have the Firebirds, best in the West. I cannot wait to see who the Firebirds face. It could be the Condors, but I'm not so sure. Because I think that series is also going to go the distance. Bakersfield's very good at home. Bakersfield has kind of a weird home ice advantage at their
I've
arena.
been in that rink. It's got an interesting vibe.
It does. And I've said this for years. The fans go crazy with their cowbells out there. And this is what I referred to a minute or two ago. Bakersfield has had deep runs. They had that long winning streak to get to, I think, the Western Conference Finals 1 year.
Right.
They had that Pacific Division run in 2021 in that weird quasi, whatever the heck that was. So Bakersfield does do fairly well in the playoffs. And I see no reason why this doesn't go 3 as well. Ontario, very good at home. Bakersfield, also very good at home. They're going to give each other issues. That being said, if I'm going to make my prediction on this, I'm going to go Ontario, but it is going to take all 3 games as well.
Yeah, I would have no doubt in my mind that this series will go to all 3.
but Ontario has been in these situations in the recent past. Ontario's lucky they're not playing Colorado this year. I mean, they hate Colorado for a
I feel like
plethora of
who in the
reasons.
Pacific Division actually likes Colorado?
I'm not going to answer that, Robyn. You're not gonna trick me into this. I'm not gonna. I plead the fifth.
That says enough. That says all I need to know.
Fine.
But the Pacific Division side is really interesting, mainly because of how many teams are in it. If you notice, once again, you have the most teams of anyone. It's seven teams. I mean, the closest is the Atlantic, which has 6.
Yeah. What are the FanDuel lines for the Ontario series, by the way?
For Ontario, all right, let's bring that up real quick.
See, I
don't
can't
have the
actually. I can't
don't have the
actually see the
graphic for
lines,
it,
by the
but-
way.
Yeah, I do not have the graphic for it, but Bakersfield is favored to start off with at no, they're not. I looked at the puck spread. The puck spread is their for the game is their 1.5 underdogs. Ontario minus 128 and Bakersfield plus 102. So that's
For
really
the game
close.
or for the series?
It's for the game. I don't think we have
Yeah.
the series one quite yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ontario's a little bit better at home. For the game, I have Ontario winning tomorrow night. If Ontario loses game 1, that's it.
All right, really quick, I want to bring this up because I know we're going pretty long here. I don't want to go too don't want to go too long here.
Yeah.
But I want to at least touch on the lines for game 1 of Abbotsford versus Colorado.
Yep.
Because that is where we're talking incredibly close. We're talking money line Abbotsford minus 110, Colorado minus 116.
Yep. That's exactly what I thought. So remember that game that I mentioned between Colorado and Ontario? Colorado needed to win that game to get home ice advantage in this series. They needed this win probably more than Ontario did, because we were looking at a 3-game series at Abbotsford. Now it's at Colorado. They got a home ice advantage. Do you know how many games out of 36 they sold out this season at Blue Arena?
How many?
36. They sold out
impressive.
every game. I mean, yes, their capacity is a bit smaller at 5,000, just over 5,000, but they sell out every game. Tickets for a Colorado Eagles game is not easy to get, and that crowd is rabid. That crowd is ready, but Abbotsford just plays them so tough. In this season, they won about the same amount of games. Colorado won 4 games. Abbotsford won 4 games. There's been a couple of close games there, especially towards the end of the season. You had a 2-1 victory for Abbotsford, a 4-3 victory to Colorado. In a weird way, the road team has done well between these two teams. Abbotsford won their last 2 at Colorado. Colorado won their last 2 at Abbotsford. This is close. This is really close. But just to get past this, I'm picking Abbotsford in this series because Colorado just lost Ivan Prosvetov, who had to get called up to the Avs on an emergency because the Avs are having their injury woes as well.
And I'll say this, Coyotes and Roadrunners fans, I know you all have your opinion on Ivan Prosvetov anyways, but that's besides the point.
What are you talking about, Robyn?
It was beloved by some, hated by others. It was an interesting relationship he had of Arizona.
I'm gonna be nice because I made nice last time. But I think the last memory that Roadrunners fans of Prosvetov was getting shelled at Acrisure Arena and getting pulled in the first few minutes of that game. They remember. I remember
yeah.
because it happened right in front of me.
But
So yeah, I'm going Abbotsford in this series. I'm going Abbotsford.
I've got reason to take Abbotsford too. I
Oh
think
shoot, but
it's a,
wait. Sorry, I just forgot something. Abbotsford lost their goalie because that Trudemko
oh
just got
man,
hurt.
oh boy.
It's a battle of backups. Oh boy. Wow. I'm still gonna pick Abbotsford.
I'll give
Oh
it to
my
Abbotsford.
god.
Yeah, I'll give it to Abbotsford.
Yeah, they just lost Tolopilo and got Jonathan Lemieux as their backup goalie now. Oh,
All right.
yeah.
As we get close to kind of wrapping things up a little bit, let's go ahead and bring two different kinds of questions and answers here. As I have this bracket back up, who is in each of your division finals, and then who do you have winning the Calder Cup?
So I actually wrote this down on a little notepad next to me. So division finals, I have Hershey versus Providence,
Yes,
obviously.
obviously.
North Division, I have the Monsters versus the Syracuse Crunch.
Love that.
Syracuse has played Rochester pretty well this season, so I'm going that. In the division for the North, I'm taking the Cleveland Monsters. They
Love that.
have an extremely distinct home ice advantage.
They're probably the most dangerous team right now because, like, you don't. It's, I mean, like it's like Cleveland and Hershey, like over there on the Eastern Conference. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, and I've actually covered. I've been to games at what used to be called the Q. I forget what it's called now, but what was then Quicken Loans Arena. Those fans are nuts. I was there when they won it. Oh my god, in 2016. You know who they beat in 2016? The Hershey Bears.
Of course they did.
They beat the Hershey Bears in 2016. I think they're going to beat the Hershey Bears again in 2024. So I have Hershey over Providence, Cleveland over Syracuse, but I have Cleveland over the Hershey Monsters in the East.
Love that. Now let's go to the West.
Yeah, for one reason and one reason only, Trey Fix-Wolansky. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. He has been one of the, if not the best player on the Cleveland Monsters all season long. So yeah, I'm just gonna say Wolansky and leave it at that. But that's gonna be a tough series.
Right. Certainly.
Yep.
Now off to the West. Because the Pacific Division and the Central Division can really make you could really make some arguments for a lot of different things. I know you've got your thoughts about the Pacific Division, mainly because I mean, for reasons. But let's hear what you got.
I'm gonna start with the Central first.
Okay.
Milwaukee's the team to beat. No question. If Milwaukee does not win the Central, I will be disappointed. The only team that has a fighting chance against Milwaukee is the Grand Rapids Griffins. None of the other teams, I think, have a legit shot. So I'm going to go Grand Rapids, Milwaukee. Milwaukee should win that series. They should. Pacific. I have Abbotsford. I have Ontario. I have Tucson. Coachella Valley should be able to handle either Colorado or Abbotsford because both of those teams have lost their top goalie to the National Hockey League. So Firebirds, I think, will have no issues there. So they should be in the division finals. Between Tucson and Ontario, that series will very likely go the distance. That should go all 5 games. Ontario's got a strong lineup. Samuel Fagemo has been strong. Fagemo, I think Tucson fans are kind of afraid of a little bit because didn't he have like a really good game against Tucson? I want to say fairly recently, Robyn.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. That was a game in which I think a lot of Tucson fans want to have back.
Oh, duh, that was a game I went to. That was in Ontario. Ontario beat Tucson 4-1 in that one. I had to look it up. I'm like, why have I seen Tucson so much this year? Because I actually have seen Tucson a lot this year. That's really why. And Fagimo did score against Tucson. I remembered correctly. And it was also Akil Thomas, who's been strong for the Ontario Reign as well.
Right.
Oh boy. That series is probably going to go 5 games. I don't know who I have winning that series.
That's a tough one. It certainly is a tough one.
Matty Villalta against his old team too. Wait, and Aaron Dell against his old team too, because Dell was in. I think he was in Arizona for a short bit, wasn't he?
No.
Or am I thinking of someone else? Oh, I know who I'm thinking of. Never mind. Not Aaron Dell. Dang, do I want to pick Villalta against Ontario?
I think you do.
I think I do. But it's going to be 5 games.
You know what? I'll take it for one reason. Is not only the Roadrunners would get a win of the series, but Tucson fans would still get treated to as many hockey games as they can get before whatever happens to Tucson.
That being said, if it's Firebirds versus Tucson, if it's Firebirds have a better chance of beating Tucson than they do Ontario. Just because Ontario is very top heavy and they've played well against the Firebirds. Even though Tucson did beat Coachella Valley their last game at Coachella, the Firebirds were hardly playing anyone in that game. That was literally a couple days after they clinched everything. And yes, I have it on good authority that not everyone was available and not everyone was playing at 100%. And all the Black Aces had not come in, and all the players from the Kraken had not come in yet. That's when the Firebirds were playing guys that are not going to see playoff action. So that last game I won't count too much. So if it's Firebirds, Roadrunners, sorry Roadrunners fans, but I got to go Coachella Valley. That's probably going to be in 4. Just because without that last game, Firebirds have played them well the last 2 years.
It will be an interesting matchup. I'll say that at the very least. It will most certainly be the most intense challenge for the Tucson Roadrunners. I've got a little bit of confidence that they can take it. I think based off what we've seen from the Coyotes, as an example, from the Coyotes to end the season, once the rumors really, ramped up about the potential relocation, is they ramped up and they beat playoff teams, beating Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary, and Calgary twice, and Edmonton twice too. Certainly there's reason to believe that since some of those players are going down, that they have that same kind of, fire up their ass. And the only hope, if you are a Roadrunners fan, your hope is that momentum rides with them through the entire Calder Cup playoffs, because they will certainly need it, because it'll be and it makes sense, right? Every single round that they go through is going to get tougher and tougher and tougher, despite the fact that the Tucson Roadrunners are the 2nd seed in the Pacific.
The problem is they're a distant second, because they're not going to have home ice against Coachella Valley. If they play Milwaukee, they're not going to have home ice against that, and that's going to be very tough.
They only have the home ice. Yeah.
And if they make it to the final, they wouldn't have home ice against a slew of teams in the East, including Hershey and Cleveland.
Yeah. So the only time they have guaranteed home ice is through these next
2 rounds.
And
that's it.
And so Coyotes and Roadrunners fans, I want to see all of you guys show up and wear that white, because the Tucson whiteout is back. I can't wait to
Wow,
see
it's
it.
been so long.
It has been. Because they didn't have a home game last time.
This is the first time since you've hosted that there's been a whiteout, right?
Yes. It's been the first time.
Wow.
Well, no, yes, because the last time was because it was back in 2018. I was not host of Locked On Coyotes yet. I was just starting off as my career as a writer for fiveforhowling.com back then. And look at it now. I am now the owner and managing editor of fiveforhowling.com, for those of you guys who are haven't been following lately.
Yeah. As far as the West, I think Coachella Valley could, if it's Milwaukee, Firebirds should win that. Actually, Firebirds should win the West. They really should. You can attest to this. In the American Hockey League, home ice is everything.
It's gold.
Especially, I mean, you haven't been to our barn yet. When you come to our barn, hopefully next month when the Roadrunners face the Firebirds, and if you don't come out, I'll be disappointed, Robyn.
Well, now here's the big question: will you give me a couch to sleep on before I have to take my drive back?
Fine.
There we go.
The home ice advantage in Coachella Valley is one of the biggest home ice advantages in the entire league, and that's what makes it very tough. I mean, pretty much every other team has told me the exact same thing. You guys have a loud barn. You have a raucous barn. It makes any visiting team, it gives them a little bit of a disadvantage.
But Jason, hockey doesn't work in the desert.
Hockey doesn't work in the desert? Who says that? Man. Who says hockey doesn't work in the desert? Man. Don't make me rant about that again. I did it on my own podcast where I ranted about that.
Anyways.
From Acrisure Arena. Hockey works in the desert. It works.
It certainly does.
It works. Look at the Coyotes when they actually, when they had competent leadership for the short time they had it. Look when the Coyotes started and they had the super awesome crescent moon on center ice, which, by the way, is one of the best center ices of all time. That crescent moon was everything.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I did not like the Brad Rick Coyote logo. No, I did not like it. When they brought back the crescent moon at whatever the hell that arena is called now in Glendale, that looked cool. That looked really cool. I made it a point to check out a game and see the crescent moon force. It looked awesome. It has a certain intimidation factor in a way. And how many teams have that as a center ice? No logo, but it is.
And why do you think that the colors of this podcast have been purple and sand for as long as I've been host?
Because that colorway is a million times better than the brick red. A million times better.
Facts.
Sorry, exactly. that is where you and I will always agree on that. And Coyotes fans, if you're watching this, I'm with you on that as well. That colorway is better. This jersey is better. If the Roadrunners don't choose to wear their Kachina jerseys for the playoffs, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be legit upset.
I will tell you right now, based off the schedule, they are scheduled to wear the Kachina through the entirety of at least the first round. So,
thank God. It should have been that the whole. I'm not going to curse.
No,
I'm going to be good and not make you hit the button.
Yeah, but that purple is absolutely amazing. And
that being said, look what Tucson did last year. You know what Tucson did last year in the playoffs, by the way? They wore their cool jerseys. Do you know how cool that was to work Roadrunners Firebirds game last playoffs?
The road Kachina jerseys were legendary.
Those are the best jerseys. You can make the argument the road Kachinas are better than the home Kachinas. You can make the argument. You could.
Yes, you very well could.
Yeah, that was an elite jersey matchup for last year's playoffs.
No, it would have been really awesome to see them wear those during this this first round to just complete the whiteout. Oh, that would be the coolest of ideal
Yeah.
situations.
So Tucson, if you're watching, just go Kachina Roadrunners all the way through the playoffs.
And if you guys manage to make it to the Calder Cup final, it's gonna be a hard way to make it all the way, but if you guys do, please do that. Absolutely, right there. And I would love to see that also, just because, heck, you know what? Tucson's last stand.
I mean, come on, look how beautiful this is. Just look at this. It's so gorgeous. Plus, not the crescent moon, but the mountains on the center crest
that define Tucson.
Yep.
Because it's surrounded by mountains.
Yep. The true valley of the sun.
Absolutely. Anyways.
I just pissed off Phoenix fans. I'm sorry.
Oh, here we go. Any last thoughts? Because we're reaching the hour mark here. No surprise. Anytime Jason and I just have a show that is just us two, it is always going to end up being this long, especially when we're talking AHL hockey.
We went this long when it was the trio of myself, you, and Trey. Hey, it does not beat the hour and 20 that you and the legend known as Banner Guy did a couple weeks ago.
That was live, though. We had our live discussion, and that was an intense amount.
An hour and a half, almost.
Yeah, almost an hour and a half. We're
not going to go an hour and a half.
We had to unpack it all.
Yeah, and I never even got into why this format is so weird because I saw your thing. So just to give the very, very Cliff's Notes version, the reason this format is so weird is because it started in 2021 because there was a pandemic happening, and in 2021, there was no Calder Cup Playoffs. There was a weird Pacific Division playoff between all the teams that somehow made it, and they had the first two rounds at the weird bubble at Great Park Ice in Anaheim. No, sorry, Irvine, California. They had those first few rounds. Then they had the next round where you had Henderson hosting, and you had, who hosted? Oh, Bakersfield. Bakersfield hosted the other one. They beat the San Diego Gulls. That's still etched in my memory. Yes, when Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale and Andrew Podorowski and Sam Carrick and Lukasz Dostal were all San Diego Gulls at the same time. Yes, there was a time for that, folks, back in 2021. And the reason they went with this expanded format is because a lot of teams lost money. They lost revenue because they lost the 2020 playoffs and they lost the 2021 playoffs.
Which
and
that
also,
2020 playoffs would have been a huge year for the Roadrunners because they were the Western because they would. I think the Roadrunners were the Western Conference regular season champions come at the end of all that. Or at least they were projected to be.
Yeah, Tucson would have been the 1 seed. Gulls would have been the 2 seed. That would have been such a fun series to cover because I totally expected Roadrunners versus Gulls. That I'm still mad that didn't happen. You know, some stupid panorama happened, but
a battle between two cities with amazing food.
Yep. Anyway, so because there was all that lost revenue from no playoffs for 2 years, the current AHL president, Scott Housen, wanted to have this expanded format to try to get a lot of those teams some revenue again and try to make up for the lost revenue that did not happen, and also try to get more teams into it because look what the NBA did. The NBA had their play-in. It works. And baseball had their weird whatever. Doesn't work in baseball. It doesn't.
No.
So this started in 2022. Ontario beat San Diego in a sweep, which anyway. So 2022 happened.
Tucson was pretty poor in 21, 22.
Yeah.
And even in a little bit of 23. They kind of picked it up towards the end, but
you made the playoffs last year.
They made it. They did it, but that's skin of their own teeth.
Yeah, which was 2023. And then it was rumored that this format was going to stick around for one more year, which is this year. And then the rumor back then was that it would go back to a regular format, but that'll never happen because the divisions are still misaligned. So until there is proper alignment in the divisions,
with 10 teams in the Pacific division?
10 in the Pacific. Yeah, I'm going to be nice because I happen to work for an AHL team. I still think it's weird that there are 10 teams in the Pacific, 8 in the Atlantic, and 7 in the other 2 divisions. It's still weird to me. This could all be, you know what? I hope that there is going to be some realignment next year. And I guess this is like the bigger question for you because, we don't know how long Tucson's going to be around. There are still rumors about that. And
yeah, I mean, the idea is that they stick around because the Morella Group still owns them. So,
yeah,
with the idea that Coyotes return, but that's not guaranteed. So we don't know.
right. And later on down the line, could we see a couple of teams move? Like, could we see the Calgary Wranglers move to the North Division or the Central Division? Could we see Colorado move to the Midwest Division? And then from those divisions, what else gets who else moves? So
I mean, let's add the idea to the fact that if the Coyotes come back as an expansion team, the Roadrunners return to being the Coyotes minor league affiliate. We're talking now. Utah needs a minor league affiliate. What do you do with that? Do you promote either the Grizzlies or the Steelheads who are within a geographical closeness to the Utah NHL team? And then how do you do a realignment from there? There's so many. I think if that case, you just got add just extra divisions at this point because it's going to be too much.
My final thought, and then I'll let you close out. The Idaho Steelheads were almost promoted to the American Hockey League 3 years ago because during the Board of Governors meetings, there was the debate as to whether Boise would get an AHL team if they just move up, or if another city would get that new American Hockey League team. Luckily for me, Boise did not get that team because that team is now known as the Coachella Valley Firebirds. The Firebirds were almost Idaho.
Very interesting.
Yep. So that's my final thought on that. That being said, I hope the Firebirds go all the way.
Well, we'll see what happens. It will certainly be a playoff to watch. And I really hope you guys also all enjoyed listening to this episode. For an hour that happened this long, my assumption is you listen to this entire thing. If you listen to this entire thing, you are from Phoenix and you are driving down to Tucson as we speak. How
long is that drive?
It's about almost 2 hours. So it's hour and a half. To 2 hours, depending on where in the valley you're from. But yes.
So play this episode on repeat, and that'll make the whole drive.
There we go.
I remember the traffic.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll handle it. As long as I can get my food in time when I get down there. Yeah. I'll be down there all day. Both Wednesday and Friday, by the way.
Yeah, enjoy a burrito for me.
Sonoran hot dogs. Maybe go to Noodleholics. I'm going to go through my gauntlet as much as I can in those couple days. Who knows how much money I have? How much money I have to spend. There's Filiberto's up here. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. Jason, where can we find you and your podcast?
You cannot find me here because I'll be in Ontario, but I'll just give a shout out. Still one of the best jerseys in the American Hockey League of all time. I love that little shout out to Tucson. And come on, how can you not love the Tucson Roadrunners? That being said, you can find me on Twitter X at StimpyJD, and the show's Twitter X is at LO_Ducks. And shout out to all the minor league fans from San Diego that came to Palm Desert this past weekend. So shout out to all the fans of minor league hockey. Hockey works in the... Sorry, I'm going to make this... Hockey, period, works, period, in the desert, period. I missed a period or two there, but you get what I mean.
Oh,
It works.
100%. It does work.
Fans had better show up to Tucson. You better fill that building. I better see that.
Oh, I sure hope so. If you're listening to this episode and I see you guys not filling it up, I will track all of you guys down. Yeah.
So will I.
I don't know if I can actually do that, but you get the deal. You understand what I'm trying to tell you. Interact with us, ask us any question. We might answer right back around a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to forever howl on.
Meep, meep. Meep, meep forever, right?